Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome back to video number 3. A couple things before I start showing you fragrances. Number one, I just want to give a big heartfelt thank you to everyone who has left a comment on my first couple probably terrible attempts at doing a video. Um, the community is kinder than I ever could have imagined, and it just really lifts me up. So I wanted to say thank you very much for that. Number two, as is turning into a trend with my videos, I forgot to show a couple fragrances from my last one. So the Creed video that I did a couple days back, there were a few that I left out. So without further ado, let me show you the Creed fragrances that were left off of that video. If you're here for the vintage fragrances, you're gonna have to suffer a couple of these, although there's some vintage Creeds in here as well. And then I'll hop into the biggest vintage haul video that I'm going to do. It's going to include all of the fragrances that I've got in the last 4 or 5 hauls from Enchante lumped together, except for the last one that I showed you. So everything other than the last fragrance that I've picked up within the last year and a half. But first, the Creeds. Bois de Portugal. How could I leave this beauty out? One of the best barbershop fragrances of all time. Again, Pierre Bourdon. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this video will be hours long if I do that. But just give you guys a quick high-level overview. Number 2 is Creed Windsor. And this is the limited release that I said was darker than the Royal Mayfair. It has that almost like it was in an oak barrel feel to it compared to the current juice. And I much prefer this, but it's almost impossible to find now. So that's Creed Windsor. And then a couple of the Gray Cap EDTs. Creed Orange Spice, which is almost imagine if you took Koros, that dirty, pissy vibe, but added Creed's freshness to it. You know, they're very well known for their fresh ambergris type feel. That's what this feels like. It's not heavy like Koros. I obviously don't like it as much. I could probably wear this in the summer. And the second one is Royal Scottish Lavender. I think both of these claim to have come out like in the 1950s or 60s or something. Royal Scottish Lavender. You know, glad to have tried them, but I would not go hunt down bottles or pay crazy prices for them. All right, so let's get into the vintage haul. The first one I'm going to show you is a rare beast indeed. It's a fragrance called Lacoste Land. And look at this packaging. It comes in this pouch that is leather. And you pull out the bottle. And it is a splash. Lacoste Land, but it's basically a woody aromatic. It's an earthy fragrance. Mossy. It is, it's one of those fragrances that has the note of mace in it, which always reminds me a little bit of Rockford, if you guys know that fragrance, by Atkinson's. Atkinson's Rockford has that wonderful note of mace in it. So this one is I haven't had a chance to give it a full wear yet, but I am very glad to have it because apparently it is a under the radar, if you know kind of thing. And once my nose is back 100%, I will definitely be wearing this when spring and summer rolls around. Another Lacoste fragrance. And this is just the original Lacoste for Men. This is from 1984. And someone said this smells like a country club. And another one that I haven't had a chance to give a full wear to yet, but it's very green. Very fresh, very aromatic, very citrus top, but it also has that classic 80s mossy herbal base from what I remember when I smelled it off of the test strip. But again, since these are from Enchante, you will be able to see that is not distributed from Procter & Gamble. That is distributed from SOFIPAR. And Sofipar International was who distributed these Lacoste fragrances before Procter & Gamble bought the license. This was apparently the last one that Anuj had, and very glad to have this in my collection. I actually found a couple on eBay floating around, so if you're patient and you do want the pre-Procter & Gamble reformulation, you can find it, and it's not crazy money either, because most people don't know what they're looking for, but now you do. So that is the Lacoste fragrances. Next, I'm going to show you a fragrance I picked up strictly because of the fact that it is a living legend in the fragrance community, potentially one of the greatest floral fragrances of all time. This is Patou's Joy. And this is actually the extrait. So this is a 7.5 ml extrait, as you can see. Let's see if I can show you this without it falling. There you go. 7.5 mils is not a lot of juice, but this is the vintage, and the ingredients here actually only say 3 notes. They say alcohol, parfum. Actually, that's it. Alcohol and parfum is the only ingredients listed. So back before the long note tree listing, probably my guess is this is a 90s bottle, but who knows? It's from Enchante, so I know it was stored properly. And even though this is not my thing, not my favorite thing to wear, because it's very white floral, Persolays described this as feeling a carpet where it just goes on and on and on, and you can feel every bump, especially the vintage extrait. If you can find this and you just, like having perfume classics, find a bottle. Next, another extrait. Again, these are all from Enchante. I'll probably say that a million times. But this is Guerlain Shalimar. And this is a release that I think was around the time when they were putting out the Batman bottles. But this is the extrait. Yeah, or the pure parfum. It comes in this beautiful outer packaging. Of course, it's plastic. It's not metal like the real old ones. But I did get a chance to spray this because I got this a while back, and it comes with this nice little handy-dandy pouch to carry it in if you would like. And I've got the Parfum de Toilette from the 80s, and I have a current EDP, and I will tell you that this is much more floral. I think I prefer the Parfum de Toilette, if I'm being honest, but the iris in this, the rose in this, is much more amped up, it feels like. The iris, rose, and jasmine in particular. And of course, Fragrantica just says floral notes. I hate that. I hate woody notes and floral notes, but it is what it is. But the iris is amped up. You can definitely tell it has that extra powdery feel. And it does feel like it is very crunchy, like it has a lot of depth. And this is the extrait of Shalimar. Next is a fragrance called... from a brand called Renato Balestra, and this is Balestra pour Homme. Balestra pour Homme. Look at this bottle. I actually saw this on Sebastian's channel before I realized that Anuj had a bottle. Sebastian from the perfume guy, I guess, did a video of vintage fragrances, and he found this exact bottle at some little perfume shop in California, I think. But the sprayer did not work right away. But this is just apparently a citrus aromatic. Again, haven't had a chance to wear it. I will wear it in summer. It does have lavender in it. It is from the 80s, early 80s, 1982 if I'm not mistaken. And so living in Texas, this is probably the type of fragrance that will get a lot of wear for me. It does have the note of carnation. Carnation puts some people off, but for a guy like me that likes vintages, I have no problem with it. But I really like the construction of this fragrance. Artemisia, clove at the top, geranium, lily of the valley, coriander, carnation, pine in the mid, lavender in the mid, and then the base has that oak moss. I'm sure this has real oak moss. Musk, vetiver, leather, ebony tree, which will make an appearance later in another fragrance as well. So excited to have that. Now, next one is a special one, and these are not in order, by the way. So they're just going to be some, what I'll call special fragrances mixed in, some of my favorites of all time. This is one of them, and this was a backup for me, and you'll notice some of these are backups. This is a fragrance called Alain Delon Classic. Alain Delon was a famous French actor. This was my original bottle that I bought. It was the only one that I could find, and it was the reformulated version that actually says the word classic on it. If you go read about this fragrance, you'll hear a big, this is distributed from Joel and Waruska, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Joel and Waruska and Joel. And you will hear a big debate about whether this bottle, this is the vintage, is the same fragrance as this one. And I can tell you that yes, it is the same fragrance, but this is done so much better. So much deeper. This is a good reformulation because this is all discontinued now, by the way. So this is probably like 90s, early 2000 bottle. And this is probably a 1980s bottle if I had to guess. But again, it's a tester. It says demonstration along the side, not for sale in giant letters. But this is the original formulation. And this is a fragrance that really captures my heart. I'll show you another one later on that reminds me of this fragrance. But this has that... aldehydes in the top are amazing, by the way, but it has this pissy honey vibe that I absolutely love. And it's going to make an appearance in a couple other fragrances as well. This one has an amazing note of honey, but it's not heavy. It's not a heavy honey that has to be worn in winter, even though it has benzoin, amber, tonka, honey, and oak moss in the base. It does have those bright top notes, the juniper freshness, artemisia, basil, bergamot, and then it has that pine in the mid. This was actually originally put out, I believe, in 1980, a fantastic year for fragrances. Alain Delon Classic. Well, not before it said classic on the bottle. And Anuj, this was an absolute, as soon as he sent me this on the WhatsApp chat, I said, yes, circle it. I need it. So very happy to have this one in my collection. Sticking with Alain Delon, the next one is probably one of my favorite floral fragrances of all time. If you know fragrances, you probably know what's coming. It is a Ketos, and it's also a backup. This was my original 50 ml splash, and this was the tester that he actually found for me. And this bottle is supposed to look like the mouth of a snake because the advertisements were all geared towards the rainforest, and Ketos is, you can read about it, but this is an oak moss bomb. But it also has some of the most beautiful aldehydes, honey, florals that you will ever find. The jasmine in this is unreal. My very good friend Rich Mitch hates jasmine, if you've ever watched any of his channel or his streams, but he loves this fragrance. It is a little powdery. It probably could be worn by a woman, but for me, the honey in this and the civet, and it's actually the animalic pieces that I love the best of this fragrance. It does have the honey, it does have the, you know, florals, but it's that dirty animalic, not too dirty, but it just gives you, gives your nose enough to, you know, stay interested. Ketos is getting harder and harder to find. You know, try not to pay crazy prices for it. I got lucky because of my relationship with Anuj. I did pay a little bit more for even this smaller bottle. This is a partial, as you can see, but this will hold me over for probably the rest of my life. Okay, next. Next, we are going to do a fragrance that, if you watch Rich Mitch's channel again, you probably know very well. There are no surprises with this one, and this is Pavarotti. Luciano Pavarotti. And this is a patchouli, again, honey. This is right up my alley. To me, this smells like Tom Ford's Moss Brex, which is a discontinued private blend from 2007, I believe. And I think Tom Ford copied this fragrance. It also smells a little bit like the vintage bottles when they were made in France, not the USA stuff, but the vintage bottles of Pierre Cardin Monsieur. And it's just this is a beautiful patchouli fragrance. Rich Mitch says it smells like food. Pavarotti was known to indulge in excess in his life, of all things, and you know, you can really smell it in this fragrance. It smells like a man that's going to go stand on stage and, you know, captivate the entire audience. It's this is a backup, by the way. The rest of my old bottle is decanted, but I'm very glad to have this one. Okay, next. Next on the list, we're going to do one of my favorite types of fragrances of all time. Not necessarily my favorite fragrance of all time, but one of my favorite types. And that's a fragrance type that uses castoreum to build a leather accord. And that is Leonard pour Homme. This is a 25 ml bottle. It's small. This was my original bottle. As you can see, the little dent that I made in it. Leonard pour Homme. And this was the one that Anuj got for me. So we'll consider it a backup, but this is one of my favorite fragrances because it falls into one of my favorite categories, which is using castoreum, using oak moss, you know, using that those combinations to build that leather accord, which I don't think they're really able to do nowadays. That oak moss is banned, and the use of castoreum has been you know, synthesized or turned down. But this has beautiful labdanum in the base. It's every time I spray a fragrance like this, I just go, oh, it's that type of fragrance for me. You know, any time of the year. Probably it's more of a winter scent, but honestly, living in Texas, you got to wear what you can wear when you can. And this is one of those feel-good fragrances to me where, you know, it just puts me in that state of mind, the power play state of mind, you could say. There are others like this coming, but this is one of the best ones. Also, by the way, on a side note, this is made by Ron Winograd, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who is, he did not make very many fragrances, but what he made was absolute classic. He made Lagerfeld Classic, and he made Furyo for Jacques Bogart. I'll do a family portrait with Jacques Bogart one day. And of course, he made this. So his star shined bright for a very brief moment. Next is a freebie that Anuj gave me with an order. And it's If for Men from Sorella Fontana. I wish I would have saved the packaging because it came in this beautiful book. And it was inside the book. You know, like it was hidden, and I'm not too familiar with this yet. If you look it up in Fragrantica, it does have a note listing. It does have a page, but there's no note listing. But it feels like you know, it feels like an ambery type fragrance. It does feel warm, and I think it would probably be geared towards the winter time for most people. But you know, that being said, it does have a little freshness to it. I probably would wear it anytime. Wear whatever you want when you want. But this is also long discontinued. And I saw some prices on eBay. I mean, just crazy stuff. $100, $200 for a bottle. You know, when supply and demand dwindles, the prices tend to get weird. But I can say I haven't given this a full wear, but just smelling it off of a test strip when I got it months ago, this is a winner. Next is a fragrance that's also commanding insane prices, and it's a Dominique Ropion. It's Casual Friday from Escada. No calf, as you can see. Tester, again, as you can see. This is the 125 ml, the 4.2 ounce. And this was made in 1999, just to give you a feel. It does have that lavender, anise, tarragon. It actually has carnation, which is strange for a 1999 release. But it's compared to a couple famous fragrances that came out that time. And it's close, but it stands alone. It's compared to Le Male, which is the big one. It's also compared to Mabussin pour Homme. I think it's I think it's Marbert pour Homme. I own that fragrance and I hardly ever wear it, and I think that's also made by Dominique Ropion. It's compared to Lolita Lempica Au Masculin on Fragrantica as well. Probably closer to Le Male or Marbot pour Homme, but I did pay a lot of money for this. It is because it's becoming so rare. Is it worth that much money? It feels a little designerish, but I feel like this is a little bit of a crowd pleaser. You're not going to make anyone mad with this fragrance. And you're definitely going to stand out because no one else is wearing Casual Friday, I can tell you that. All of Escada's men's fragrances are great. If you can find Escada pour Homme, Magnetism, grab it. Okay, next. Next, we are going to an incense fragrance, one of my favorite incense fragrances. And this is Two Man by Comme des Garçons. This is a 50 ml. And I believe this was a bottle from about 10 years or so ago. The actual distributor shows Comme des Garçons, not Puig. So I'm guessing this is a little bit of an older bottle. It may have been reformulated now. I don't know. But this has that ebony wood note we were talking about earlier. And it is heavier. It has this incense, mahogany, ebony, leather type note in the base. This is a very distinctive fragrance. It feels a little bit like Gucci Pour Homme 1 to me, even though it doesn't smell exactly like Gucci Pour Homme 1. But this is probably my favorite Comme des Garçons, along with Girl, which is a cheapie still, by the way. You can snatch Girl up for a very reasonable price still. Okay, next is one I don't know anything about. I haven't had a chance to wear it yet. I just saw it was the vintage formula, and it was a good price, and I had to grab it. Romeo Gigli per Uomo. Romeo Gigli per Uomo, and this has this crazy bottle that opens like this. And then it closes up and snaps back down. And that keeps it from moving. So there's actually a booklet that comes with it to show you how to open the bottle. But the green juice, it's supposedly woody, warm, aromatic. It's an Alberto Morillas formulation. It has plum and Brazilian rosewood in the top. It has my honey note in the mid again. And then some heavy notes in the base, patchouli, oak moss, sandalwood. It is supposedly a heavy fragrance, even though it doesn't look like it would be. It looks like it would be a freshie. It's not. Next, Paul Sebastian Fine Cologne. And the reason I grabbed this one, this is a cheapie right now, but again, it's the current formulation that is going to be cheap online. This is the vintage formulation. Paul Sebastian Inc. was the distributor before they were purchased by whoever it was they were purchased by, EA or whoever does the reform now. So I'm very happy to have the original in my collection. It is a musky lavender with some yellow florals, and it's powdery, and you know, it's got that dreaded jasmine note. It does have the note of cloves, which I have come to really like in fragrances as my nose has matured. Next is another one I don't know too much about. I haven't given it a full wearing yet. But again, it's the vintage formulation. It is discontinued. And it's Sybaris by Puig. Antonio Puig's Sybaris. I saw a couple vintage bottles online for a very good price as well. Hey, look at that. And this is apparently very close to the Jacques Bogart I showed you guys the other day, Witness. But I'll give this a full wear. If you guys want me to do any reviews on any of these, let me know. I plan on maybe doing some first impressions once my nose heals a little bit more and I can trust it. I'm starting to be able to smell. Arpels pour Homme is my scent of the day, and I can smell it now, so my nose is starting to heal from my surgery. Next is a treat because it's one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And again, it uses that castoreum note to build that leather, the labdanum leather oak moss in the base, but it also has a really interesting floral heart. The rose in this fragrance is impeccable. It's Let's try that again, Ramsey. Let's find some words. Van Cleef and Arpels pour Homme. This was my original 100 ml bottle. This is the bottle that Anuj found for me. And the packaging on this seemed older. I don't know if you can kind of see the differences. You know, the EDT is written inside here, whereas it's down below here. I think this is a newer formulation, but this is still Parfums, Van Cleef, and Arpels. They were also purchased by a bigger company. So even the 100 ml, which I think is newer than the bottle that Anuj found me, which has no sticker on the bottom, is Parfums, Van Cleef, and Arpels. So this is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. Very similar to Leonard Pour Homme in feel, but that style just really does it for me. It's right up my alley. Next is another fragrance that's a leather fragrance. I love this fragrance as well. And it is Davidoff for Men, the original from 1984, I believe. Yep, 1984. Edward Fleischier. Fleischier is the perfumer. And this is a leather castoreum. This one, I wouldn't say I like as much as Leonard or Van Cleef and Arpels. It feels a little bit more citrus at the top, more basil, artemisia. You know, but I prefer, I think, the style that Leonard and Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme do, but this is still a great fragrance. Very happy to have it. Reminds me a little bit of Jules, actually, which I also have a vintage of, but didn't get it from Enchante, so it's not in this list. Okay, next. Next is a fragrance, if you watch Duck's channel, you saw him just highlight, and it's Aramis Devin in the vintage bottle. Aramis Devin in the vintage bottle. And this is a green. This is by the great Bernard Chant. And this, the galbanum in the top reminds me of number 19. And the pine needles and the leather accord in the base remind me of Polo Green. So imagine if you combine those two with the aldehydes that you maybe find in Aramis JHL. And here you go, Aramis Devin. Fantastic fragrance. I don't know about the new formulation, but I hear it's quite good. I also hear that Estee Lauder is potentially doing some weird things with this line. So if you want these Aramis fragrances, grab them. Grab it now. Okay, next is my favorite fragrance of all time. I can say that with certainty. And I probably should have saved this for the end, but whatever. There's more good fragrances to come. This is Bel Ami. If it's not my favorite fragrance of all time, it's top 5 for sure. This is my favorite leather of all time. This is the first reformulation. This is actually the one that I prefer, the one that I was looking for. This was my bottle. This is the bottle I bought from Anuj. This is my backup. It's a full 100 ml of the first reformulation. This just... I love this fragrance so much. If I had to choose one to wear for the rest of my life, I think it would be Bel Ami. But then, to show what a fantastic guy is, talking on the WhatsApp chat, Anuj and I told him that it was my favorite fragrance. So lo and behold, when my order arrived, guess what came with it as a freebie? The shaker bottle of Bel Ami. And I literally fell off my chair when I pulled this out. At first I was confused because I pulled it out and went, wait a minute, he gave me the wrong thing. And then it hit me that he sent me a freebie of the original shaker bottle. And I have worn this, I've given this a full wearing. It is it's just as fantastic. I just think that this formulation is more refined. I think that they tweaked the edges a little bit. This is a little bit rougher. And Bel Ami is a rough fragrance, I know, but I prefer this formulation for some reason. Maybe it's all in my head. But Anuj, again, thank you. You are absolutely amazing. I think I had to text Mitch right at 1 in the morning, his time, and say, look what just came, man. This is such a treat to have. I'll cherish every drop of this. So again, thank you, Anuj. And now you guys know my secret, Bel Ami, my favorite fragrance of all time. Next is a Pierre Bourdon, and it's live jazz. Live jazz. I showed you jazz 2 videos ago with the black and white bottle. This is live jazz, and this used to be a cheapie. Pierre Bourdon does fresh scents very well, and he used mint and grapefruit and rhubarb in this fragrance. This is definitely a summer wear, but it's getting harder to find. So if you're interested in picking up either a summer fragrance or if you want to study some of Pierre Bourdon's work, this is a fantastic fragrance. And then to finish out the jazz trilogy, the collector in me had to get Prestige Jazz. Jazz Prestige, which came out a couple years after the original. The original came out, I think, in the late 80s. This one came out in 93, right before the aquatic CK1 wave washed everything else away. But this takes the original jazz and just basically amps it up with more floral notes. You know, there's rose, jasmine, carnation, nutmeg flower, which is an interesting note, coconut in the base. So it's another one I'd probably wear in the summer. I prefer the original jazz. If you can't tell my taste yet, I like the classics, but glad to have that fragrance because it's getting harder and harder to find. Okay, next is a fragrance that is completely under the radar. You can find it on Fragrantica, and I even think Enchante might have another bottle or two. It's a fragrance called J. Casanova. J. Casanova pour Homme. And what's interesting about this, and I wish I had the box to show you. I do. It's just up in the attic, and I don't feel like grabbing it all. But when I received this, it said J. Casanova, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, who I think owned the J. Casanova brand. These are long discontinued. But if I had to describe this in a nutshell, I would say it's a green incense. It's a green incense. Something that people in Saudi Arabia in the 80s probably would have liked. This came out in 1981. Fantastic year for fragrances, by the way. As far as top incense fragrances go, I did get a chance to wear this once. And, you know, Bois d'Encens, two-man. I mean, I would put this up there with my favorite incenses. Tower Incense Extreme. I mean, I enjoyed wearing this one just as much. It doesn't feel as well made as, let's say, a Tower Incense Extreme, but it's just so different. And to imagine this came out in 1981, it's insane. Okay, next. Next is a very special fragrance because these are also getting harder and harder to find. This is a splash. I'm not even going to try to open it, but look at this bottle. It is Christian Dior Poison Esprit de Parfum. Esprit de Parfum, which was their fancy version of basically Extrait de Parfum, if you want to be exact. It's just their way of saying it. They issued a couple other Esprit de Parfum fragrances in that time, but look at the beautiful cap. This is supposedly just a more ambery, the best tuberose fragrance for me on the market. It's ambery. It also has that note of honey, by the way, but it's got cloves, incense. I mean, it's not my style. If I'm going to wear something that is in this range, I would probably rather wear opium. But the forest fruits in this, that's the note Fragrantica has listed, plum and forest fruits. I mean, it feels like a jam. It feels like they just smushed the fruits, the raspberry, the grape, strawberries, and just mixed it together with that incense, cloves, tuberose, and honey, and that heavy amber in the base. And I put it on one night before bed, and I mean, I probably smelled it for a week on my pillow. Beautiful, beautiful fragrance and bottle, by the way. So very happy to get this from Enosed. It was an odd one little piece that he had, so I don't think he has any more, but it's fantastic. Next is a fragrance that that Cologne guy recommended to me. And Ben, this one's for you. It's Il de Lancetti. Il de Lancetti. And this is distributed, I don't know if you can see that, by Schiaparelli. the famous perfume designer that competed with Coco Chanel when she was alive. This was her. She was the distributor of this. And this is apparently just an aromatic, fresh lavender fragrance with anise. I did get a chance to spray this. I didn't get a chance to wear it, but it is a very unique take. It's a 90s baby. 1999 this came out. Long discontinued, but glad to have this one in the collection. Next is one that I bought specifically because of who the perfumer was. This is made by Jacques Polge, the one and only. And this is Ungaro 2. Everyone knows Ungaro 3 Pour Homme. Ungaro 3 Pour Homme is the one with vodka in it. But this one, the reason that I really was interested in it is it has the note of civet. And as you can tell, I like the leathery, heavy fragrances, but I also like the dirty fragrances. And I was really interested to see a Jacques Polge take on civet and leather with some citruses in the top. Very musky. This was also made by Parfums Ungaro before they were purchased. So as you can see, my strategy is I'm trying to buy the older fragrances that were made by the individual houses before the conglomerates, scoop them up and change the formula. Next, this one's very interesting. I hope I'll be able to show you where it was made in. I'll try and see if the camera can pick it up. If not, I'll just tell you. But this is a fragrance called Gentleman by Marbert. Marbert's a German brand. And can you see where this is made? Can you see? Yes, you can. Made in West Germany. And I'm going to show you another Marbert fragrance in a second that I like a little bit more. But this one is still a very nice fragrance. I wore it for Halloween, actually. It's this patchouli, musky, civet, floral, but for men, very, very pissy. It's got olibanum in the base, actually, and French labdanum. But Anuj, being the guy that he is, sent the aftershave as well. So I got both bottles, and these are very rare. Apparently this was reformulated and put into a different bottle. These are the original bottles that you want. I know they were stored properly. And, the scent memory of that Halloween, the first time my daughter got to go trick-or-treating, is going to be linked to this fragrance probably for the rest of my life. But Marbert Gentleman is one. And then my favorite Marbert fragrance of all is the classic Marbert Man. Now, this is very similar to this, the Alain Delon Classic I showed you. This, oh boy, luckily nothing broke. So this has the honey amped up a little bit. It's not as fresh. I think I actually prefer this over the classic version that I showed you. So it's a fragrance that's right up my alley as far as taste goes. But this is the reformulated one. It's not the original one. As you can see, I don't know if you can see that. Still made in Germany, not West Germany, but made in Germany. And either way, I was glad to have a bottle. I think Enchante has some more of these. So if it is something you're interested in and you're looking to grab a bottle, check out his website. But Alain Delon and Marbert Gentleman are two peas in a pod, and I love them both. That pissy honey is beautiful. Okay, next is a cosmair creation, but not the one that you're thinking. It's Paloma Picasso Minotaure for men. Minotaure for men. And this is a cosmair version. Oh, you won't be able to read that. It's too small. Take my word for it. It's a cosmair. This is also one that has that aromatic vanilla. If you check Fragrantica, apparently it is very similar to a couple fragrances. It gets compared to La Male again, just like Casual Friday that I was showing you. But I believe the fruit notes in this one are a little bit different. It also has that green galbanum and tarragon in the top. And so, again, anytime I get a chance to get a vintage, you know, you read Fragrantica and these guys say, oh, it's been neutered, it's not what it used to be. Well, this is exactly what it used to be, and it's never been sprayed when I got it, and I know it was stored properly. So, again, Anuj, thank you. Next is one of my other all-time favorite fragrances of all time, if it's easily top 5. This is Boss Number 1, and this was my bottle originally, the one that I had, as you can see, back when they used to actually put stickers on things and write the price. Who would have thunk it? And this is the bottle that Anuj found me as a backup, 100 ml. Mine's a 50. Look at that little baby. Mine's a 50. Anuj found me the 125 ml. Euro costs Frankfurt, made in the UK. Giorgio Beverly Hills, back when Giorgio Beverly Hills owned Boss. And this is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. It's a tobacco, pissy honey. It does have that men's restroom vibe to it. But this is a fragrance that puts a smile on my face every time I wear it. If I'm ever in a funk, all I need to do is grab this, and I'm so glad to have enough that I'll never run out of in my life. Probably try and wear this one first, but they're these older versions. And oh, as you can see, something very important, the 50 ml that I got, even though this is also made by Euro costs in the UK, made in the UK, you notice it says number 1 on it right there, Boss Number 1. And you notice this bottle actually does not say number 1 right here. It just says Eau de Toilette. And before Boss had a lot of men's fragrances, I'm trying to hide so you can see it. Before Boss had a lot of men's fragrances, there was no reason to put number 1. It was just Boss for men. And then it became Boss Number 1 later on. So this is actually an older bottle than the one that I have. But either way, this is you know, if you're a young kid and you're wearing Eros or, you know, Sauvage, try this. Get a bottle. Try to find an older bottle like this. It will blow you away. One of my favorites of all time. Another favorite, you guys are getting all the good ones. This is my favorite coffee fragrance of all time. It's also discontinued, also very hard to find. Trussardi Inside. I had a bottle. Anuj got me a backup bottle, and this backup disease is one that knows no cure. There's no cure to it, but after I got started on the backup game, I couldn't help myself. But this is a look at the look. This is a Nathalie Larson creation, by the way. Look at the inside. It looks like an alligator snake skin leather type feel. Trussardi used to be an Italian leather goods company, the Greyhound. And this is, again, Nathalie Larson, probably well known, best known for her cheapies, Bentley for Men Intense and, you know, Montana Graphite and stuff like that. But this fragrance is, I think, one of her best works, because it has this interesting, imagine you wake up in the morning and you have an Italian espresso and you have a cigarette, and you put on your good leather shoes, you tie it, you put on your good leather belt, and that espresso feel, no sweetness, by the way. Chris from Scentland is the one that made me buy this fragrance, and I trust his nose above all else. And this is the best coffee fragrance, in my opinion. Zero sweetness. It's masculine to the core. It does have this freshness from yuzu in the top. Nathalie Larson, very, very impressive. I'm so sad that stuff like this is discontinued, but very glad to have a bottle. And my favorite coffee fragrances. I'm going to have no secrets after this video. Okay, only a couple more left. Another Trussardi next, and this is a summer banger. Again, discontinued. There's different versions. This is Trussardi Python. Trussardi Python. This is the Scannon version. if I can get it to focus. This is the version from Scannin. And apparently that's the one that you want. This is the older one. Anuj had both. He had this one, and he also had the version after, which I can't think about who makes the next version, but I think the name of the distributor starts with an S. But they're both good. But if you can get the Scannin version, get it. This is probably one of my favorite tea fragrances, along with Gucci Pour Homme 2. If you see Gucci Pour Homme 2 and you see that blue juice in Gucci Pour Homme 2, this is what I always get reminded of with this fragrance. It doesn't smell like Gucci Pour Homme 2. It has this fig wood bark at the top, strangest notes, along with cypress and olive and vetiver base, basically, with a note of teak. You hear a lot of woods used, but you don't hear teak used very often. You don't hear fig wood bark used very often, and you don't hear olive used very often. This is an insane fragrance. In the summer, this is just absolutely gorgeous. It's not my style, actually. Usually I don't like fragrances like this, but again, Chris from Scentland was spot on. This is unique, one of a kind. It's sad Trussardi doesn't make fragrances like this anymore. I also have a small little version of Python for Women that I got for free, I think, from Enchante, but I didn't grab it. But it's red. The blue one is the Uomo for men. Okay. Last couple fragrances. This is Yohji Yamamoto Homme. Yohji Homme. And what made me buy this fragrance initially, Yohji Yamamoto is a Japanese designer, but what made me buy this fragrance initially is I read an article that the work done on this fragrance was originally done by Jean Carlo, which was the perfumer for Patou for so many years. He made all the great Patou scents. He was famous for using real Mysore sandalwood. He was famous for using, lots of real oak moss. So that's why his old fragrances are so sought after now by collectors. And he apparently did most of the work on this one. And then what ended up happening is Jean-Michel Duriez came in and finished it up and got credit for it because Procter & Gamble bought Patou halfway through the fragrance. What's interesting is when this fragrance first came out, this was my original bottle, the 100 ml. You probably won't be able to see because the typing is extremely small, but this is actually distributed by Patou Fragrances, Patou Inc. And then the bottle that I bought from Anuj, which is the same release. If you look in Fragrantica, there's multiple releases is what makes it tough. But this was done by Procter & Gamble, P&G. P&G, if it'll focus. So this is still the 1999 bottle. You can tell by the way that this cap is right here. It has this mechanism that actually snaps into place to keep it from spraying. Mine broke off, but that's what it was. And the new one actually has a black cap on the top. So they re-released this fragrance in the mid-2000s and they completely wrecked it. Procter & Gamble discontinued it after they bought Patou. And then they realized, I think, their error and they brought it back. If you've read the famous perfume book that the name's going to escape me now, but if you've read, the perfume critics books, one of the top perfume critics, his name will come to me as soon as I stop this video, gave this 5 stars. So it's highly acclaimed. I'll tell you, it does smell like a Japanese fragrance in that it wears very light. It's not something that's very heavy, even though if you look on Fragrantica, you'll see woody, spicy, you'll see coffee, rum, leather, and you'll think, my goodness, this is a winter. No, this is a year-round fragrance because of how it was constructed. And even though it has those heavier notes, licorice, rum, cinnamon, coffee, leather, it's very light. It wears like a Japanese style type fragrance. And don't get the reformulation. If you can find the original, which I think Enosed has. So I've compared both of these, and I will tell you that they are basically identical. In fact, I think Enosed smells better because the top notes are still there, and mine are a little bit worn. But it's a fantastic fragrance for connoisseurs. I don't think the average person would like it, but for the connoisseur, this is a great find. And the last couple are some freebies. So this is Bateau Ivre. Bateau Ivre. 80s fragrance, not in Fragrantica. It is in Parfumo, I believe. And this is just a musky, it just smells like the 80s. I wish I'd have had the box. The box is absolutely insanity. It's got this, looks like, you're shooting asteroids on a video game, and or like on a pinball machine type game, and there's asteroid splash background. It's just the craziest packaging. I bet you if you search this fragrance, you'll be able to find it. But this is a small little 25 ml, just something I wanted to try, very cheap. And then a freebie that Enosed gave me is a fragrance called Lair D'or. This is another one that's not in Fragrantica. Here, let's see if I can get the name. Lair apostrophe O-R. And as you can see, these are real gold flakes is what they claim. And who does that remind you of? Someone else that puts real gold flakes into their fragrances? Not original. Someone else did it before them. This is apparently real 24 karat gold flakes. This is a woman's fragrance. There's an advertisement from a magazine that I saw on this fragrance about the fragrance, and they were claiming the most expensive ingredients and blah, 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 blah. This is a little 3.5 mil, but he sent it to me for free for all of the business that we've done. So these are all from Enchante. If you've made it to the 53-minute mark, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you've learned something, and my passion for fragrances can help you discover and grow in the fragrance world. And if you have any recommendations for next videos, now that my nose is starting to improve from the surgery, and I can start doing individual reviews. If you want to learn more about any of these, drop me a comment, and I'll try to get those going as soon as I can. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed successful video number 3, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.